Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best full party build guide for in Solasta 2's early access. I'll be covering all the best strategies to get the most out of your skill checks and win your combat encounters. Now there are two abilities here that are a little bit more common than others, Dexterity and Intelligence. And I'm going to show you a few different ways you can build your party. I'm currently running with a Paladin Human, a Rogue Halfling, a Wizard Elf, and a Cleric Dwarf. This covers everything, all abilities, skills, and language proficiencies as well. But I'm going to first start off with the face of the party. Now there's two, I guess you can really play whatever because everyone's skills are counted, but we want to have one charisma class. Either the Paladin or the Sorcerer work great here. I do have individual builds for all these if you want to build your party a little bit differently, but I want to show the Paladin because they're very strong and possibly the strongest class in the early access right now. This is due to how the changes to lay hands work, but also there's a change to Divine Smite. You can only do it now once per turn, which is not a big deal when our level cap's only currently at 4, but this will be a little bit different later on as bonus actions are now consumed whenever you use your Divine Smites. Lay hands is now a bonus action though, so you kind of have a bit of a battle medic kind of role in combat, being able to remove poison and also heal upwards of 20 hit points, so pretty solid. The Paladin also gets a little bit of spell casting as well as cantrips here, which is really nice to see. We'll be rolling with this, gets the hit die of D10, which gives them 10 hit points every time they level up, plus charisma modifier. And for the race, I would recommend going with the boring option, going human. Humans are actually very good. You could roll with a full team of 4 humans because they get the versatile human feature here, which is crazy. Giving you an origin feat at level 1 here is insane. They also have resourceful, the heroic inspiration here, which lets you reroll attacks or saving throws. And they also get the answer SC skillful here, letting them learn another skill. This is crazy because we're going to have every skill covered by our team. Now, versatile is interesting because this lets us build our character a little differently. The quick feat will give us an additional 1 tile of movement speed per turn and get disadvantage on ability or opportunity attacks against us. I personally like to go with robust, which will give us an additional hit point per turn, similar to what the dwarf gets. However, whenever we do a short rest, we can roll 2 die and get the highest result on a heal, and we get hard to kill. If you become stable while unconscious at 0 hit points, you'll immediately regain 1. This is solid. Savage Attacker is the other choice, but we can get this from our background, which I'll show you guys. Skilled is nice too, but we got every skill covered in here, so you could choose that if you wanted to grab something a little bit different, but the Vigilant is also kind of a nice choice, but I still think Robust is the best choice to go with here. And this brings us to our background for the Paladin. I think that the Wanderer is solid because this gives us Savage Attacker. Now, this will only work once per turn when we hit a creature with a weapon. We can re-roll our damage die using the highest result. This is pretty solid because that's going to give us a big boost to our overall damage. Now, with the Wanderer background, we also get the Herbalism kit here and Animal Handling and Survival. You can go with the Aristocrat. That'll give you Skilled, let you take 3 more skill proficiencies. This lets us increase our Constitution, Charisma as well, or Strength. This is kind of like the default answer for them, and I do think this works well from a roleplay perspective. The last one I would recommend is the Low Life, which sounds funny for a Paladin, but you get increases to Strength, Charisma, or Dexterity. We'll have to go with a little bit of lower Constitution, but that is a option as well. I think the Wanderer is great though, giving yourself Savage Attacker, and then you can get Robust as your origin feat. 2 feats at the start of the game is amazing. And this lets us take in our ability scores here. Now, we are a charisma-based class because we can get some cantrips here to help out with our damage. We also have a constitution score that we want to have high because hit points are important here, and strength is our main attacking stat. So you can also run with a Dexidin. I'm going to do a build in the future on a Dex-based Paladin because that is it's an option. But I do think at this current moment, we have a Dexterity character. We want a strength character here. But strength doesn't really have a role outside of combat and carrying things, so that's just the way we're going to roll with our stats here. And you do have to use the background to give a +2 to Constitution and stuff there. Now for our skills, this is important because we want to cover these all between our team. We're the Charisma character or the Sorcerer as well. This means that we're going to be taking Intimidation here as our Paladin one. Athletics works well too. This will help out with climbing, jumping, or swimming whenever we roll in athletics checks. Those do come up sometimes. I should say that strength does nothing. Those do pop up from time to time. But we can alternatively take that athletics check and put it into strength there, or persuasion, which is nice because having intimidation and persuasion, these do come up a little bit more frequently. Since we're the charisma-based character, that works well. The sorcerer will get a +5 to those, which is nice. Athletics is good, but doesn't come up as much as intimidation and persuasion does. And we can also go ahead a little later on. But weapon proficiencies. Now, these are going to give us different weapon masteries, which is great. Using the javelin can work pretty decently early on, alongside the longsword, which will sap the enemy, giving them disadvantage on their next attack roll. But I do want to mention the maul because currently topple is bugged and will always knock the target prone. I do like daggers, but that doesn't really fit here. Great axes are awesome for the cleave attack here, so if you like being able to hit multiple targets, and great sword will still deal damage if you hit a target and end up missing. I'm going to keep it simple with the longsword and javelin, as these, for the early access, all intents and purposes, are solid. You got a throwing weapon and a close range weapon that'll protect your allies, which is kind of the role of a paladin. Now, we do get to take one more skill from our human ancestry, and this is great because that can give us the athletics check there. That's the only strength-based skill that we do have here, and everything else is going to be grabbed by our team. So you could alternatively throw on performance checks if you like that. It does fit on here, but you could alternatively also then throw on these athletics checks. It's between those two there. And for our language proficiencies, now we always have to have every one of these covered by one of our teammates, and we can with this particular setup because the halfling will get additional ones. So for the human ancestry, I'm throwing on giant and orc, and it's cool. Sometimes you do have these language proficiencies help out in combat. For our spells from the paladin that they get to prepare, you can grab divine smite. You'll get it for free at level 2, but we want to grab searing smite for the early game is a decent option. Shield of faith for the increased armor class works well too. I personally think cure wounds works well, and hear me out on this. If you don't like healing in D&D based games, it is much better this time around because it's buffed from that 1d8 it was previously in the 2014 rule set to now in 2024 being a 2d8 of healing. This is great because combat's a little bit slower in this game, so being able to heal your team and sustain them is actually very nice. But I do want to mention that Divine Favor is another solid option and Shield of Faith, but we're going to throw on Cure Wounds. We have 2 healers on the team. This basically ensures that we will not lose combat, and we do have very high damage as a Paladin as well. We have an action-based heal and a bonus action-based heal, so you have so many options when it comes to combat. So this is what our Paladin's going to look like. Their role in combat is dealing damage, looking out for anyone that needs healing with their bonus action, and if things are dire, you can use your full action to be able to heal and then a bonus action heal. So they're actually really strong. Next up, we'll be talking about the rogue. So we got a strength charisma character. The rogue is interesting because dexterity is so important in this game, and we're going to be playing as a rogue with a halfling. Now, they get the D8 hit point die, so a bit less health than others, but they also get weapon masteries. That's one cool thing. They also can use martial weapons that are finesse or light, and we can do sneak attacks. It's a big core principle of this build. Anything that's a finesse weapon or a ranged weapon, and we have to have advantage or a friendly creature on our team standing next to the enemy to be able to do that. We also get the Thieves' Cant, so we can speak that language, as well as the halfling gets a lot of extra options. Now, I like to roll the halfling for my rogue. Reason being, they get the luck feature here, so when you roll a 1 and a d20, you can re-roll it. That's amazing. But they're naturally stealthy. You can take the hide action even when you're obscured, but only by a creature that's at least one size larger than you. I do want to mention the rogue does have a current thing that doesn't work with their bonus action hide, but that is targeted for a future update. They also get the halfling nimbleness, so you can move through the space of any creature that's a size larger than you, but you can't move into the same space. So if you're someone blocking your way, you're not blocked anymore. And they also have advantage on avoiding the frightened or removing frightened from themselves. Now for our background, we can also go with the Wanderer here because this gives us Savage Attacker. Now, it doesn't matter a massive deal if we have 2 with the exact same background because we are going to be getting such a massive benefit of Savage Attacker, especially this early on in the DLC, or in the early access. But I also do want to mention that the Occultist can work well. This is Dexterity, Constitution, Charisma, so we can boost up our Dex and Con. This will also give us the Magic Initiate Wizard. Now, this is good because there is a subclass for the Rogue, which is a Spellcaster, and this will just give you more juice for the fire. And the Ascetic here is another good choice, having Dexterity and Constitution. They also got Nature and Acrobatics, but the Origin Feat Robust, which will give them extra hit points. So it's between this and the Wanderer. We already have a Wanderer in our Paladin, so I do think that the Ascetic here is a good choice as well, just because they're going to give us the stats we want, and they give us a Herbalism Kit and Robust for extra hit points, which lets us take our ability scores as such. So I like to have, obviously, Dexterity is our main stat here. We want to have this high as possible alongside Constitution. This is going to give us the most survivability. Now, there is one subclass that is intelligence based. You could take points from Constitution and put them in intelligence if you wanted to go that route. I'm not going to take you through that full one because I do think the other subclass is really good as well, but I'll break down both options. But it's still nice to have a bit of intelligence here. You could put those points from there into our wisdom and have that all spread out a little bit better. It's Dex and Constitution that are main stats, though. I'm going to leave it as such here. Actually putting the points into wisdom, so we'll roll with that there. Now, we got a lot of skill proficiencies here, so we also get expertise. I would recommend, since we're a stealth character, and stealth is kind of difficult, you have to roll a DC 15 in combat, so we're going to pop that and Sleight of Hand. There's very, very many locks and traps in the DLC or in the EA already, so this is something that's very good to have, just due to the number of these you're going to be using, and stealth obviously being very nice too. This also lets us take expertise and double the proficiency bonus. This can take our stealth and sleight of hand up to a +7. This is amazing. There is also acrobatics there, which lets you stay on your feet, which is more so for combat purposes. I do think stealth and sleight of hand end up being the best choices there just because of how many locks we're going to be picking. So we also get different language proficiencies. Again, pick the ones that your teammates don't have. I have on my halfling, they learn halfling and gnomish and goblin. I just think that made sense with the short races there. Now, they also get to take weapon masteries, and this is where it kind of falls apart, because the dagger weapon mastery is just so good. You get the nick attack, so when you perform the extra attack granted by your light weapon property, you can do this as part of the regular attack instead of as a bonus action. So what this does is when we do our attack with our dagger, you can then do a free attack with your offhand. You don't have to actually use the, attack and then bonus action attack. So this is pretty crazy. You can only do it once per turn, but it's a big boost to our damage, and a reason that we'd want to use it over the short sword, which is the other option, giving you Vex, giving you advantage on our next attack. This is still really good because this can help out set up our sneak attacks, but we can also roll with something like the short bow for its Vex purpose there. So I do think dagger and short bow end up being the best choices. And again, language proficiencies, halfling and gnomish. I also forgot to add in 2 more skill proficiencies here. So investigation for a bit more of a boost, because we're all going to be rolling these. It works well. And then also we can go with something like the insight there, just because I do see those somewhat frequently. That is our halfling in a nutshell right there. Ascetic halfling rogue, very strong. And possibly the strongest single target, the 2 strongest single target characters in the game are our paladin and our rogue. So they're great in combat. I'm going to break down why. Next is our wizard. They're probably the most important outside of combat, but they're also very important in combat. There's 2 subclasses depending if you want your tank. They can be tanky for the whole team, giving the entire team a shield, or they can be very offensive with the School of Rune, getting destructive magic. But when we're playing as this, I like to play as an elf. Now, they have the smallest hit point die as a d6, so they're going to go down often. They also only have regular old weapon proficiency there, but we have some fun ways to be able to work around that. I also want to acknowledge their wizard outfit is the most stylish outfit that you get in the game. But the elf here, Sylvan Elf, gives additional movement speed and a cantrip, which does 1d6 piercing and 1d4 poison damage. The High Elf will give additional cantrip, and you can take the Firebolt one, anything from the wizard list. You also get a level 3, the Long Strider spell, and level 5, Misty Step. This is another option where you could go human, but I want to keep it as Sylvan Elf there for the extra movement speed. Also Dark Vision, which is really nice. The Fey Ancestry, so you don't get charmed as much. Keen Senses, you get proficiency in Insight, Perception, and Survival. And Trance, which makes it so we don't get put to sleep. Now, for our background, the Pops of the Wanderer, the best choice is by far the Cell Sword. So previously this was a little bit better in Solasta 1, but here it's still great because you get the Origin feat Ready for War. This will give you proficiency in light armor and shields, meaning that we don't have to worry about mage armor because we can get light armor on our character and then also have a shield. It's pretty great, in all honesty. So that's my personal preference. I think this works well because it's also intelligence and constitution. So it lets us prepare our ability scores as such. So intelligence most important, and I'd actually say that this is one where you could actually go with the 17, and you could roll with a stat spread of something like this. I do think that this ends up working decently well too, as there are half feats once you get to level 4, which are very good. So this can work. I'm just going to keep it simple and go with that so we don't get multiple -1s, as I do think that at the current moment this ends up still just being the better choice so you don't get hit by any of the other spells. Now, we are an intelligence-based class, so our skills are the most common ones. Arcana is probably the one that I've seen the most alongside investigation, so I'd recommend having those. The next are going to be religion and your history checks, with history being somewhat common. We can also go ahead here with, unfortunately, only one of these 3 from our elf ancestry, and I'd recommend perception. It's the most common of those 3. We also, again, language proficiencies, make sure you're not copying your teammates. We also got a lot of choices in spells and cantrips. So my recommendation, Firebolt has the longest range of 120 feet. This is really good. I also like Poison Spray, short range of 30 feet, but it does a 1d12 for the higher amount of damage. We're not going to take it, however, because I also like to throw in Shadow Dagger here. So this one's an attack roll. Shadow Dagger is a wisdom save. Most targets don't have a very high wisdom, so this is going to be a little bit easier. Chill Touch can also be nice for 1d10 necrotic and prevents the target from regaining hit points. There isn't too many things that heal themselves in the current early access, but I could see this being very good later. So if you're not going to throw in Chill Touch, I'd recommend Ray of Frost because it'll hinder the target, slow them down. It's pretty nice. So we're going to roll with that. And I'll show you the spells later. So there is the wizard there. And then we're going to end off with the cleric before I show you the level ups and everything else that we got going on there. So for the cleric, we're going to be playing with a d8 die there, giving us a decent bit of hit points. We also get martial weapon and heavy armor if you choose the protector here over the thaumaturge. Thaumaturge gives you an additional cantrip, and it gives you a bonus to your intelligence, arcana, and religion checks. That's cool, but we got someone on our team that can do that for us. So I'd recommend grabbing the protector here because this gives us that heavy armor proficiency. We're going to play as a dwarf, getting dark vision, resistance to poison damage, and advantage on poison saving throws. Dwarven toughness, giving an additional hit point every time time we level up, and Stone Cunning, which doesn't work properly at the moment, but lets you see any target touching a stone surface. Now, for the background, I would actually recommend going with the Acolyte here. This is going to give us another group of cleric spells, which we definitely would not mind having, and it'll also give us a herbalism check, religion, and medicine skills. Now, for our ability scores, I'd recommend going around Constitution and Wisdom, with Strength being our last stat. We are primarily a spellcaster using Wisdom, but we can also attack with a melee weapon, and sometimes that's going to be the better answer because we're much more likely to hit with it. So we do get skill proficiencies in Wisdom. We have Medicine there from the Acolyte background, and Insight from just selecting it here. And I guess we'll throw on either History or Religion there. And that's what that ends up looking like there. I'll show you the prepared spells in a moment. So for the cleric spells we'll be preparing here, this is obviously something we want to have Cure Wounds for. That's such a good spell. Now, another thing that I'd recommend having, again, the Cure Wounds is just because it's a 2d8 of healing, sometimes you just need that burst heal. Bless. Bless is typically the first thing you want to set up when you get into combat, giving a 1d4 bonus to a target's attack rolls and saving throws. Extremely useful, so pretty much always have this concentration up in the early game. Now, I would also recommend having Healing Word. Now, just a little heads up on this. Healing Word, you can only cast one spell per turn. So even though this is a bonus action, you can't cast it alongside Cure Wounds. So there's a heads up on that. You'd have to do like a weapon attack and then follow up with something like this, or cast a cantrip and do this. So just a heads up. Now, Inflict Wounds is a pretty decent option for damage, but I think Shield of Faith is another decent option if you want to give a +2 to armor class. I do think Bless ends up edging out in terms of being the better option. Guiding Bolt, you want to have that prepared. I have it already prepared here. So I'm going to throw on Inflict Wounds, and then we're going to have the Shield of Faith just as an option. Bane is okay, I just don't find that ends up being as useful as Bless. So we're going into the Paladin levels 2, 3, and 4. At level 2, they're getting their Divine Smite. They get it once free per long rest, which is amazing. And level 3 is when things come together, because we get to take our subclass here now. I played around with both of these, and they're both really fun. I'm going to start off with the Oath of Judgment returning here. You get Guiding Bolt and Inflict Wounds at level 3 here. We also get the Weight of Justice. So immediately after you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can use one of your Channel Divinities to make the target do a Charisma save, adding additional force damage equal to your Paladin level, half on the save, and becoming restrained for 10 turns or 1 minute. It's a Charisma saving throw every turn to get rid of that. Pretty good, because you can just hold a target in place. It's really nice on just a normal attack. You can't use this alongside your smite, though. You get to pick one or the other. We also get Purge Corruption here. So as a bonus action, you can use your Channel Divinity to end one condition on a friendly creature within 30 feet of you. This can be blinded, poisoned, charmed, deafened, restrained, paralyzed, stunned, or frightened. This is really good because it's a bonus action. If you have a teammate that's paralyzed, they're out of combat for that turn. This is a bonus action to get your teammate back and their bonus action in action. That is really powerful. I do think the Oath of Judgment is slightly better, but I'll quickly mention the Liberation one, which gets Expeditious Retreat and Sleep. They also get Blinding Castigation, so you use your Channel Divinity to blind an enemy within 60 feet of you that you can see for 10 turns. At the start of the turn, they'll do a Charisma check to end that effect, and the creature cannot be blinded, it's immune to effect. We also get Slip Away, which you use your Channel Divinity to make all friendly creatures other than yourself invisible until the end of the next turn. Now, a little note on this. Currently, this does not turn you invisible. It just works as if it was like the Blur spell, so just a heads up on that. It's not true invisibility. And I do think the Oath of Judgment is better. Having this to be able to restrain a target. Sometimes you go against a melee target that doesn't have any other options. You can melee them and then run away and hold them in spot. It's pretty crazy. And then we also have the Purge Corruption again. That is just such a powerful bonus action ability. We want to have that. And for our Paladin spells, they have Divine Smite. I have Heroism on this character. Searing Smite as well. The reason Heroism is so nice is it adds temporary hit points equal to spellcasting modifier at the start of each turn, so there's a bit of extra damage you're going to be blocking, especially in the early game. I like to have Bless as a backup, but it's not necessary, and even Divine Favor to add a 1d4 of radiant damage can end up being a better option. So that's what we're rolling with. And then for the Paladins level 4, this is when they get to prepare another spell. I guess we'll just leave Bless. The Paladin has too many spell options. And then we're going to go ahead here with the Advanced Feat. There's actually a few options. Now, Eager for Battle is nice, but you have to use odd number 17 on an ability score because this gives a +1. When you roll for initiative, you can add twice your proficiency bonus to the roll, and you get a +10 movement speed. That's like 2 extra blocks of movement. It's actually kind of crazy. It's like a 33% increase the overall damage you get. Now, some people have success with Soaring Expert and going all in on Javelins, which is pretty fun, but and even Unstoppable Force can be cool. I think at this point, though, the best option to go with is the ability score improvement, and we're going to make sure that we get our strength all the way up to 18 there without any sacrifices. This is going to ensure that we land more of our attacks and deal more damage. Now, Rogue gets at level 2 their bonus action abilities, but it's level 3 when it gets really interesting. Now, this Shadowcaster, this is a cool one because they get Shadowcaster spell casting, letting them learn spells and cast with intelligence, but whenever you deal damage with a spell that requires an attack roll, you can use your sneak attack if you're wielding a finesse or ranged weapon. This becomes pretty crazy with certain cantrips because we have attack rolls on things like Poison Spray, doing a 2d12 and being able to sneak attack, amazing. Firebolt, a long range sneak attack. True Strike lets you do a melee attack and get additional damage on top of it at higher levels. Right now, it just turns your damage into radiant. Right now, this just would make your weapon attack go off of intelligence, which would actually be a bit of a nerf right now. So, unless you want the higher intelligence, that'd be the option to go with. But I think in this current meta, Scavenger is just so good. The Serrated Edge. So once per turn, the first time you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you deal an additional 1d6 of slashing damage to that target. This is crazy because combat does get extended quite often, and being able to deal increased damage every single turn is so good because you're not going to run out of spell slots for this. It also gives you Haggler, which lets you buy things for 10% less and sell for 10% more. That's nice to have, but gold is so hard to get in this game, and I think that'll be probably something that's different later on in the game. But yeah, Serrated Edge, very good. So I'd recommend going with this here just because it is a very strong option. And then once we hit level 4 here, this is when we can take another ability score improvement, and it gives us additional hit die. Now, ability score improvement is probably the best option here to increase dexes. Dexterity is so important in this game. It's best to have that up high. You can go with one of these other half feats to increase your dex, like Patient Strike there, if you like to do the ready action. Ambidextrous can work, but I do think daggers end up being the better option. So we're going to go with an ability score improvement. And we're going to take up our dexterity to 18, just because of the amount of dex checks in this game. Being able to succeed on all of them is amazing. Now, once a wizard gets to level 2, they get their arcane recovery, letting them recover spell slots, but the 2 subclass the wizard gets are actually very amazing. Now, the sorcerer's subclass are okay. I played a sorcerer in my first playthrough. I do think the wizard ends up being better. I'm shocked that I'm saying this, very shocked. But yeah, they get, the court mage is the defensive one. They get their always prepared. Proficiency in shields, we already have that, but they also get the shielding fighting style. So if you're standing beside an ally, you can give them a +2 to their armor class as a reaction. This is okay right now, but later on you're competing with counter spell, so just be mindful of that. But level 4, not a big deal. This is a big thing though. The court mage gets spell shield, so you can create a shield which takes your 3 times your wizard level. So at level 4 here, that's 12 hit points for all teammates in a 30-foot range. It'll absorb damage, and that's just basically giving them all temporary hit points to protect themselves. So this is crazy. Also, you get to do it 2 times per long rest, and once the level cap increases, it'll be 3 times per long rest. This is amazing. Huge amount of health for the team, and it gives you a very unique role in the team too. But I personally prefer the School of Ruin. This gives us destructive magic, which when you roll damage for a spell you cast, you can deal additional damage for each die you roll. And if the spell creates multiple projectiles, like a Scorching Ray, this feature applies to each projectile individually as well. Crazy. We also get the Ruination Savant here, so you choose 2 wizard spells that deal damage. You always have them prepared. Every time you gain 2 levels, you get to take another spell as well. So yeah, we don't run out of a lot of spells. We have a lot of spells. Now for the spells I'd recommend having, Scorching Ray and Hold Person are amazing. We also get to take more damage spells, so I'd recommend having the Magic Missile there, as well as Acid Arrow or Life Drain is actually pretty interesting. On hit, does 2d8 necrotic damage and grants you the same amount as temporary hit points. So yeah, actually quite a bit of healing. And once the wizard hits level 3 here, I would also recommend the ability score improvement, but there's a couple other options here if you went with an odd number. Powerful cantrips, good if you're casting cantrips often. Whenever a creature succeeds at saving throw, they still take damage, half of what it would normally deal, which is great. Uncanny accuracy is also great. So if there's a target that's hiding behind half or full cover, we don't get any negatives to our attack rolls against them, which is amazing. However, I still think that going with the ability score improvement ends up being good. Just because we're at such a low level, getting the negative modifiers is not something we want to have often. So we can then take our intelligence up to 18 here, which will give us better on all of our rolls, especially since they're just so important. And for our prepared spells, so your Elven Ancestry gets you to prepare a spell. I'm just going to leave it as Firebolt. Now we get to prepare our own spells, and I have Poison Spray, Ray of Frost, Chill Touch, and Shadow Dagger. You're going to be looking between those 2 there for whatever works best. And for our spells that we'll have prepared, Burning Hands is great for the cone at 15-foot range. It actually can hit multiple targets sometimes. Magic Missile, great spell, 120-foot range. It can hit decently hard, and it always hits, so that's amazing. I also got Ray of Sickness for a 2d8 and poisons the target potentially, which will give them disadvantage on attack rolls. Ice Knife is a solid one too, but I do want to mention Chromatic Orb. Now, you can actually get the gem or diamond from right before at the very start of the game of the funeral. There's this shop right there you can purchase from, or really any other shop, so be on the lookout because this spell is great. Chromatic Orb does a 3d8 of damage, and if you roll the same number on 2 of those die, you actually cast a second one at a close target. Crazy damage. I also like to have a Thunder Wave here for the pushback, and it has a large radius too. And Mage Armor. Although if you're using Light Armor, you won't need to use that, and you can use something else like Shield. Now, we also have, for our level 2 spells, Hold Person and Scorching Ray. Actually, we'd probably want to have Hold Person and Scorching Ray prepared there, and Shatter is another decent enough spell, but these would be the ones we're going to be focusing on. Identify is another option you can go with, but that'd be that for the spells. And finally, for the Cleric here now, with this, we have some solid choices. 3 different subclasses. They're all returning from Solasta 1. Life Domain will give us Aid, Bless, Cure Wounds, Lesser Restoration. We'll also, whenever we heal a target, we get a +2. And the expended spell slot, additional healing on the target, and Preserve Life will restore 5 times our Cleric level hit points divided among our targets. This is pretty good if you want to go full in on healer. The Oblivion Domain is cool. This gives you Inflict Wounds, Sleep, Calm Emotions, and Ray of Enfeeblement. You also get Gatekeeper, which heal the dying ally you can see within 30 feet to 1 hit point at the start of their turn. Can be used a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier per short rest. And you also will have advantage on your own death saving throws and allies within 30 feet as well. The Herald of Pain, though, is our channel divinity, so we can do a 2d8 plus Cleric level necrotic damage to each hostile creature within 30 feet of you. The target also has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks for 10 turns. Crazy. And then half damage and no disadvantage on a save. So yeah, this ability is pretty powerful, but my preference is Battle Domain. This thing is really fun. So it gets Magic Missile, Shield, Acid Arrow, and Shatter. At higher levels, it would get Fireball and Haste, which is crazy. It also gets Divine Fortitude, which is an ability that lets you gain 3 times your Cleric level and temporary hit points once per short or long rest as a bonus action. Be crazy. You can survive a lot with that. We also have Armed and Dangerous, or Aimed and Ready here. You can use the somatic and material components of a spell even when you have a weapon or a shield in both your hands, so you can just cast spells with weapons out. And Decisive Strike, this is crazy. It did get nerfed from Solasta 1, but it's still very good. Whenever you do a melee attack, it used to be ranged attack as well, you can use your Channel Divinity to deal an additional 2d6 plus your Cleric level force damage. On a failed Constitution save, the target also comes incapacitated. This is where it becomes crazy, because incapacitated means that the target is not doing anything on their next turn. So yeah, we want that. So yeah, bottom line, Battle Domain is awesome. That's the one we're going with. It's so good. It's still a very good healer. You can go Life Domain if you wanted to, but I think this ends up being best. Now, level 4 for the Cleric gives another cantrip. Dazzle's nice, which will dazzle the target, not allowing them to do reactions. So it's kind of like a Shocking Grasp without taking up your spell. This is good. You can get away using this. Sometimes it's just necessary to have. Now for our feat, there's a lot of good ones here, but Flawless Concentration is the one that I'm thinking of. However, this is not going to be amazing until later when more concentration spells come out, but it gives advantage in Constitution saving throws, as well as you automatically succeed any if you take 10 damage or less. It's crazy. So that is a good choice as well, but I would just recommend going with the good old-fashioned ability score improvement and taking up our wisdom here. Now, the reason I'm recommending just ability score improvements is because we don't get the negatives to our other stats, as that can be pretty devastating in the early game, and the benefits from the other feats aren't really there to justify going with a negative to an ability check. So we'll roll with this here. And for the Cleric's prepared spells, for total, we'll have Guidance here. Amazing, you can use this often. It is a little bug, just want to point that out. It does get buggy and doesn't work all the time, but I even tried adding it to multiple characters and there was no change there, so having one with it is fine. Dazzle, amazing as mentioned. We also have Sacred Flame, which never hits, but we're going to have it anyways. Spare the Dying, really good, 30-foot range. Basically, if you have a teammate that's dying, you stabilize them, so yeah, you want to use that so they don't go down. I also want to mention Light. Now, the Cleric here has Dark Vision, but we can use Light on a target as a cantrip. So this is really nice because it lasts for 1 hour. So I see people talking about Dark Vision. You can use the Light cantrip. It's very, very good. I would also recommend having the Holy Conduit here on hit. It does 1d6 radiant damage. It can jump to multiple targets. Not like amazing, but it's an option. Now, we also have things like Scorching Ray and Shatter and Magic Missile and Shield from our subclass, but the prepared spells that we're going to be having, I'd recommend having Bless, an amazing spell, giving, as mentioned, you always want to have this on the target. Cure Wounds as well as Healing Word for the heals. Inflict Wounds if you want a close range attack. Not super necessary though, but I would recommend using things like Hold Person. Find Traps can be pretty useful, but I didn't find it actually useful in this certain instance of the game. So you could take that off. I also have Calm Emotions. There's a couple moments where it kind of is okay. There's not really like super useful spells here. Like things like Aid will give us additional hit points for the team. 5 extra temporary hit points is actually really nice on the team. So we're gonna go with that. And well, Enhanced Ability is super useful, giving you advantage on ability check. You can put this on your Wizard and do it on Intelligence, really good. Or put this on your Paladin, put it on Charisma, really good as well. Prayer of Healing is okay for the short rest benefits. I'd recommend going with Life Drain there, giving yourself temporary hit points. Now, items are a tough thing to recommend because there's not a whole lot of them. You don't get a lot of gold, but I would recommend buying potions of healing. These are super useful. You can just basically keep your team alive this way. Also, if you're able to find a light armor, you can throw this on your wizard. I have not much gear on this playthrough, but you can find light armor at the very start of the game when you fight kobolds. It's also purchasable. I'd recommend grabbing one of those because they have light armor proficiency. I also threw a shield on because that is going to further boost up their armor class. You're going to want to make sure that your cleric now has a shield and their mace in the same hand, because previously it's swapped between the two of them. This is because they can now use their weapon to be able to spell cast. They also have the holy symbol there. There's a necklace I have it on one of my other 5 playthroughs that gives you bonuses to your face skills. That'd be great on your paladin. So comic guide for our team here. Now, we have 2 healers here, so their role is always to just make sure that everyone's topped up. If everything is all good, then they can focus on damage. Now, this is a game about attrition, so you want to be able to outlast your opponents. They may have good dice luck, you may have terrible dice luck, but one thing that will win is making sure that you're not going down off of something silly like not paying attention to your hit point. So I got my wizard here with the highest initiative for this round. I would recommend starting off typically with like a high damage option, like Scorching Ray is great. If you don't want to use something like that, they are far away, so I don't have really many options outside of using your Firebolt to be able to hit the target, or a Scorching Ray of sorts. So this is nice because this actually lets us hit multiple targets here. I'm going to throw 2 at that one and 1 at that one there. And we rolled okay damage actually for that, so I'm happy. That's from my School of Ruined Magic. So we moved, we did that. We also then can use like a healing potion if we needed it, or we could use Expeditious Retreat, but we're going to stay on turn. And Cleric's next. Since we didn't get hit with any attacks, I don't have to focus on healing, but we do have bonus action heals. We also have casting spells, and this one has Scorching Ray as well. It's crazy. They also have Guiding Bolt, which is great because you can set up, if there's a target with a lot of health, you can give advantage in the next attack roll to set up your rogue. We don't really need that at the current moment. Another thing I do want to mention is if there's a target that held person can hit, they earn people. This would be great, especially if you're going against bandits. Sometimes you can just lock down one of them, and it makes the fight a lot easier fighting less of them. We're in a situation where Scorching Ray is going to come out as the best spell, so yeah, we blast away with that. Somehow this one has 2 hit points left. That's okay. If we needed to, we could use something else. We do a bonus action Dazzle, so we're just going to use that. Not going to use that because we can't. You have to use that melee range. But our Paladin's next. Now this is great because the Paladin is our big damage option. So I can hit this target here, 75% chance. I'm not going to use Divine Smite because unless I roll a 1, that's not going to be worth using. But we have our Weight of Judgment here too to restrain a target. I'm not going to respond to any of those because, yeah, that was more than enough to take the target out. And we can also, if we need to, we have a Lantern here too as a bonus action. But we do have other options, like our bonus action, we have the Purge Corruption, Lay Hands, and the Neutralize Poison. Those are amazing because you can heal a teammate. This is great too if your rogue gets low in health because they're likely frontlining it with you. You can then be able to protect them a bit. Now, I'm in a really tough position where our rogue, who is normally going to be good at doing damage, can't really get in position, but they have their advanced options with dash, disengage, and dodge. They don't have hide currently working, but this is nice because we can get into position to do our range attack here, so we can go ahead and I made a mistake. I accidentally used my full action. I was not thinking there. The cunning action dash is the one that you want to use. That's what I meant to use, and unfortunately I completely messed that up. We have steady aim there, but we can't really use it. So I guess a cunning action to move into a different position is nice. Sometimes it's nice just to stick with your team though, so I'm just gonna lend them off there. Now, we might be able to hit this target because Magic Missile is nice when you can't normally hit a target because it's gonna move its way around. Unfortunately, we have not sensed either of those targets, so I just have to end up not doing anything on that turn. But our Cleric here, again, we don't have anyone with 1 hit point who could heal. Our Cleric is a damage dealer first and foremost at this point, so doing something like a Magic Missile can be a solid option. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage, but it did enough there. Don't know why they're running away from us like that, but yeah, that was smart. Now my Paladin can't make it to them. They're running away really oddly, so yeah, I guess whenever you move your rogue, make sure that you do use the cunning action and then use the cunning action dash there so that you don't end up missing, as that's going to give you that bonus action. Double click to dash there. Perfect. So yeah, be careful when you're doing the double tap. So now we can do our attack here against this target. Unfortunately not going to be a sneak attack, but we dealt the additional damage and vex them. So that's pretty solid there. Now, I would recommend using your melee attacks if possible because they can also nick and do a bit of extra damage there, but that is all we had. Unfortunately, can't sense that target. I can hit that target though, and we'll use a Scorching Ray to try and take them out there. Pretty solid damage, solid. And again, our Cleric has a Divine Fortitude here, giving 12 additional temporary health points per long rest as a bonus action, which is amazing. We also have Healing Word. I'm just going to use it just to show off why it's nice. Sometimes you do an attack and you want to heal your teammate. Now you can do it. Dang, they're running away from us, so I'm having a hard time with them, but I'm just going to use a Javelin here on my Paladin. Not a crazy amount of damage, but it's going to slow them down from running away. Same deal here. Our rogue's just going to chase them down, use their dash bonus action here, which will then let us go ahead and actually get an attack off. Oh, we're not far enough. Can't use our attack there. I wanted to use the dagger attack because it's just so good. I should swap to the dagger there. We vex this target at least. And our wizard, again, has Scorching Ray. This one's the furthest away, so I'm just going to blast away. Don't think I need to have all 3 hit, but I'm going to try. I'll do 2, actually. 9, 10, perfect. And we missed the last one. That's okay, though. We were able to take out that running one. Typically, they're going to be fighting you, and you're going to have to play a little bit more offensively. But, yeah, I'm going to go with the Guiding Bolt there to hopefully set up. Oh, that was crazy. Critical hit. Yeah, we'll take that. So, yeah. Typically, our role in combat, Cleric and Paladin, check for heals. Wizard is more so like crowd control and high damage from range. Our rogue, damage from range, damage up close. Prefer to get in close and use their dagger attacks, as that's going to give you the additional attacks, but that is the kind of strategy there. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if this video is useful, and we'll catch you all in the next one.